The top of your screen should be, in theory, the closest line towards the first mark. French have got a big problem there. They've had to turn. Great Britain just on the left of picture there. 30 knots, penalty for the Danes and the USA and Spain. Big problems for most. They'll have to drop back. Great Britain picking up speed. We're on board with the British team there. Spanish coming very close behind, and there is a collision there. There was contact. Contact is allowed. So many penalties there. This should technically play into the hands of Great Britain. Only they, Australia, France and Denmark now without a penalty. 34 knots. Well, if Ben Ainslie can get on top here in the early stages of race 4, remember we've only got 2 fleet races today before the match race, this would give him a commanding position. So far, so good. And from an Australian perspective, this is much, much better from Tom Slingsby.
The British in the background there, up at 35 knots, boat humming along, and you see those white lines there. You can really see the boat nice and high out the water. A lot easier to sail the boats today, so I expect a higher level of sailing.
And there is Ben Ainslie, looking for 4 successive wins. What a start this has been.
This is all setting up really nicely here for the British just to extend their lead. The whole fleet turned right at that bottom mark, and there was a lot of traffic, basically. They were all in a very similar space.
This is much better from the Australians. They're in hot pursuit. The Spaniards third. I'm trying to look back down the racecourse to see what's going on with the French. I wonder whether their repairs have come under some problems, and they are in 7th.
Interesting here, the Australians have gone a bit closer to that yellow line. Their idea of the ley line is very different to the British, so sailing more distance if the British are right. But at the moment it's looking hard for the British to make it, so we can expect one more manoeuvre from the British to come away and turn. This could give the Australian a chance to split the course at the top here and go a different way to the British team.
What would your advice be if you were coaching? Would you expect the Australians in second to follow, or would you expect them to go the other way? We saw plenty of that yesterday on day 1.
I think looking at the course there's light winds under the land. I would expect a left turn, the way the British team are going now, to be favourable. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the Australians follow. Let's remember, for them today, it's about beating the Japanese and the American team and making it to the final to give them a shot at Ben Ainslie and his team. So there you go, they are tacking now. But really nice to see the Australians pushing back at the front of the fleet here. Jason Waterhouse taking his helmet off there. They're complaining about comms issues that haven't been quite right all weekend. The fact that Jason Waterhouse should be flying the...
Yeah. He's not going to get it. Coming up. Stand by.
Just very impressive for me how calm the Australian team stayed there. I mean, the comms are down. That's crucial in these boats. There's so much noise on board the boat. You can hear it there. And they've got to concentrate with all that noise, but they can't hear each other. So pretty impressive from the Australians, but something they're going to need to fix as the day goes on.
We need to keep a close eye on that battle for the 3rd podium spot, because Great Britain are in a commanding position as far as qualification for the match race is concerned. But there's a 2nd spot available.
Absolutely, and the Japanese here really need to overtake the Spanish. If they're only 1 place behind the Australians in this race, then going into that final race today, it will be winner takes all between them to get through.
There's the 1, 2, 3 as it stands at the moment. Ben Ainslie and Great Britain just towards the left of picture, trying to go 4 on the spin, and the only other sailor who's managed that is the one at the helm of the boat just towards the right. Tom Slingsby had 4 in a row last year. How high realistically can you fly before you risk a capsize?
I'm not sure a capsize is your issue. Your problem is it's going to skid sideways if you go too high, but we would like to see the boats up somewhere near a metre above the water on that data, but it's a little bit lighter than we've seen. What's interesting here now, the Japanese have got themselves to the right of the Spanish. At the moment, Spain will not be able to tack and cross the Japanese, so a potential overtake when they come together later.
Well, this is absolutely incredible. Practice day 1, 2 wins for Ben Ainslie. Practice day 2, 3 wins. Race day 1, 3 wins. And he's going to continue this fantastic run of form here this afternoon in Sydney. This has just been phenomenal. It is, without doubt, the start that he was dreaming of.
Okay, coming down, Goose. Make sure we're downwind, both.
So that's obviously Ben through the finish, but they've got a really important race on for 3rd here. It looks like the Japanese have got the inside on the mark there. Cool, perfect. Good have they executed good tack there? The Japanese are a bit slow and a bit low in the water. Are they going to accelerate quick enough? They're ahead. Yeah, they've got good position there. They're going to elbows out. Spanish can't get past.
Just to clarify, out of picture, Tom Slingsby and Australia are crossing for second place. That's the best result they've had in our fleet races since the opening race yesterday. Nathan Outridge closing in on the line, and it's a third place finish for him. Wow, taking on a little bit of water, doesn't matter, they've crossed the finish line, and that could be a very, very significant performance. That will make great reading for Ben Ainsley and the British team. 10 points, taking that win. Well, it was tight, but it didn't matter. Much better from Tom Slingsby, but he knows he's got Nathan Outridge and Japan hot on his heels in the battle for that second match race position. The inside is on the far side as we look at it. Tom Slingsby coming towards the top end. Early is the call. Remember, they must not cross that line until the red disappears. Looks as though it's clean at the moment. It's Australia up on the top end, America in the middle. And there is an issue with the British boat. We'll come back to that. Remember, barring a disqualification, they will be in the match race. This is all about Australia and Japan. And this is a sight that the Australian fans on those boats will be loving to see here. Tom Slingsby out in front, and this is the kind of start that took him to so many fleet wins, 11 in season 1.
And there go Japan, they're behind, they've got to try and make something happen, so we're seeing them jibe immediately at the mark. They're going to look for the opposite side of the course to the Australians. I've got to say, I feel this is a bit of a desperation move. The wind's been better down by this boundary where the Australians are, but Japan have got to do something. They've not done a great job at the start, and Tom Slingsby's got that chance now. Keep it simple, sail the boat fast, and it should be a relatively smooth environment. As we look at the screen now, the Japanese have got a great angle. They're moving through on the French. Potentially, they're already very, very close to the Spanish team. So really quite a good move from Outridge there. Must have seen something that we didn't. Manoeuvring the boat again here. He's certainly making a great effort to get back into it, and it's going to be tight with the French.
Superb boat speed on that far side from Nathan Outridge. Remember, he's working with a new wing trim and flight controller.
Well, it'll be really interesting to see how the British get back into this. They're obviously out the back right now, not in screen, but have they got the speed to get through a pack of boats?
And if they've got issues, will those issues mechanically or technically follow them into the match race?
But in terms of this overall race, it's this boat we see on screen right now, the Australian boat, who are stretching out from that excellent start. They're looking a lot smoother today, much more comfortable in their game, and that's really nice to see.
They're beginning to build a little bit of momentum here. Second place behind Great Britain in fleet race 4. This looks like a victory. It tees up the match race beautifully against the Brits.
I think Japan have done a great job of getting out of phase. They've managed to find space. They're on the opposite side of the screen to the other 3 boats. They're going to be coming at the Spanish now on starboard, and this next cross could see the Japanese ahead as they've got the right of way on the Spanish.
And remember, if you're just joining us, the key
still got
battle
the penalty,
to watch
USA.
here, Australia against Japan. Whoever finishes higher up will be coming back for the match race, and at the moment it looks very definitely as though it will be Tom Slingsby. But you can never write off an Olympic champion. Nathan Outridge at the helm for Japan, doing his level best to put his compatriot flying under a different flag under some pressure here towards the closing stages of Fleet Race 5. Well, they're looking as though they're at the moment heading towards another podium finish, the Japanese, as we listen in to the Australians.
Okay, getting softer this way. Okay, stand by. Or down. Yes, still build. 2, 1, lost, turning.
So you heard Jason Waterhouse there say getting softer this way. What that means is he thinks there's less wind. Softer means less wind. You want as much wind as you can find. So they've tacked away, they've changed direction. They're now going from right to left on the screen, the opposite way to everyone else, because they want to get away from the light wind under Shark Island and back out to the left where they know there's more wind.
Their star man, a World Sailor of the Year, an Olympic champion, a 9-time world champion. This is a guy so motivated and so in love with sailing. After taking the inaugural SailGP title, instead of heading off to the Caribbean with a bottle of champagne, he went to the World Championships and took the mock crown. This guy is hungry for success, and he will be absolutely delighted that he's finally seeing a 1 by his name on one of these fleet races. And Sass, if anybody knows these waters, it is Tom Slingsby. He has been sailing here for years and years and years, since he was knee-high to a grasshopper.
Yeah, I mean, he knows Sydney well, but he didn't have a good day yesterday. And yesterday, the wind coming off the land like it did yesterday is a really hectic day. It's kind of a bit random and stuff, and you need to be cool and calm and collected to deal with it. And they weren't that yesterday with their sailing.
Tom Slingsby back on top here in Fleet Race 5, and it tees us up for a mouth-watering climax to our weekend in Sydney. Game on between two of sailing's all-time heavyweights. It will be Slingsby against Ainsley for the Sydney SailGP event win. Wonderful second place for the Spaniards. That's a hat-trick of silvers, if you like, for Phil Robertson's young, talented crew. And Nathan Outridge coming home. It will be 4 third-place finishes for them. And bearing in mind the changes that they've had in the off-season, that is not too shabby at all. Wow. Tom Slingsby back on top in Fleet Race 5, and that win and the 10 points means he is coming back for the match race against Ben Ainsley. Perfect timing for a big showdown.
Yeah, we always seem to come good on the last day. We take a little while to warm up, it seems, but yeah, look, we're just sailing better. We're making less mistakes and getting off the line a bit better too.
Ben Ainsley, he has the advantage of an extra 10 seconds because he is top of the leaderboard.
Well, that's the Australians have got a penalty for entering the box early, so they should be able to clear that with a couple of jibes or a couple of tacks. Yeah, Great Britain, because they've won the opening part of this event, they basically now get to choose whether they come in first. It's kind of like serving in tennis. If you're the first one in, you get to control the start. Now, clearly, this is a bit of difficult for Ben now because he wouldn't be expecting the Australians to have this penalty.
So they're just waiting for that penalty
to
be completed. It's not turning off, and Stevie, presumably, because it requires the fewer manoeuvres.
Australian boats really slow in the back of the box there, Rob. It's quite hard for Ben to control anything here. Ben looks quite close to the line. It's going to be time on distance. How close can the Australians get?
He must not cross that line before the clock has ticked down. And what an advantage this is. Up to 30, 31, 32 knots. Tom Slingsby has it all to do here in the early stages. Advantage, Great Britain.
Absolutely. So there was a penalty in the pre-start. Obviously, we've heard talk of computer issues, but that's irrelevant. We're up and racing now. Ben, a really hard start for Ben to control there. He'd have probably rather been in a fight that he was expecting, but he managed it very well. Time on distance from the British boat's great. Australia now have got very little choice but to lock in, forget that. Let's forget that's how. We can't change that. We can't change history. We've got to sail the boat smoothly and try and chip away the yards. But let's be honest there, you can see Ben and the boys extending in the background. If they can sail smooth and fast now, it's going to be very, very hard for Tom.
Good pressure whole way. Stand by. Yeah, feels nice here. Says that we're knocking the legs out, so.
Real shame for the Australians there. The sort of comms coming through is that they weren't happy with their software going to that start. And so they basically were sort of kind of doing it a bit blind. And that basically has really given Ben the upper hand. And it's mentally, they're in a really hard position here because Ben is just going to not give them an inch.
Oh, and we can see there, I mean, they're trying to force it. They've gone left turn at the bottom here. That was a really bad jibe from the Australian. Whether that was a glitch, I don't know. I have to say, it's the match race, the pressure's on. We actually saw the British wobble out of their first jibe, so this isn't over yet. You saw there Shark Island had a huge crowd on it. There's an amazing spectator field here watching the racing in Sydney Harbour, and maybe there's an extra pressure, but ultimately it came down at the start. Look how high they're flying the boat on those white lines.
Got us doing in again.
Bit of heel.
Copy.
But the comms are just so clear. 2 and in, 2 jibes, and then we'll be round the mark.
The Australians now over 400 metres adrift. This year is going to be fascinating. Season 1 was, without doubt, no disrespect to the rest of the teams, it was all about Australia and Japan. Now we've got a third powerhouse coming into the mix. Up to the top now for the finish.
I think the gap's too much, but it's interesting to see for later in the series, in the championship, that actually, when you get a long way ahead, it's hard to control the boat behind.
Their faces, a picture of calm but concentration, that's been the key for the last 2 days.
Mate, turning.
You know, it's a good comeback from the Australians today, but I mean, in terms of the quality that we've seen from the British this weekend, I think it's a fair account of the event that they leave the victors.
Mate, turning. My wheel.
The final tack and the run into the finish. Well, perhaps, as Saskia Clark was indicating, on the balance of what we've seen across the 2 days, the better nation, the better boat has won. 4 fleet race victories to Ben Ainslie, only a solitary one for Tom Slingsby, but one that showed great character to take the 5th fleet race and deny Japan the opportunity to take on Great Britain in this, the first match race of the 2020 SailGP Championship.
Okay, coming away. Yep. Board's coming down.
Ben Ainslie guiding them home here. Coming up towards the line. And it's Great Britain and Ben Ainslie who take the first victory of 2020. And we really are in a fantastic season of head-to-head confrontation. Slingsby coming off second best this time, but they are the defending champions. He and the Australians will be back, but it's first blood to big Ben Ainslie and Great Britain. The 2020 SailGP Championship is up and running in fine style. It's going to be an amazing year.
Hey. Just champagne, thanks. Yeah, Trent, where are you? Come on.
Give it up for your Sydney SailGP 2020 champions.